Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, as usual, Vasili, Gianarakos. Vasili, down for another episode. What's going on, my man?
Not too much, Yariv. Just working. How have you been, aside from watching, a 6-game losing streak here?
Yeah, I mean, hockey-wise, I've already started transitioning into draft mode, so that's been cool. And fun. There's definitely a fun to it. And just got some new video games. I never talk about video games on here, but I just got Horizon, which has been really cool. And then I just purchased Elden Ring, which is not out.
The new Horizon?
Yeah, the new Horizon.
Okay.
And then I just purchased Elden Ring, which is getting a 97 average on Metacritic, which is like ridiculously high.
I have to grab that.
Yeah, it's like an all-time great so far by review metrics. So nice distraction, at least from the Flyers.
Is Elden Ring the one that's similar to a Skyrim type game, or am I thinking of something different? Okay,
it is. It's Dark Souls meets like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's like open world.
Okay.
Looks like Skyrim, but it's third person. It's supposed to be pretty difficult. I mean, I've played. It's called Bloodborne. It's one of the company that makes it is called From Software, which is like a joke because it like from anyway. But yeah, it looks like a really, really interesting game, and like at least if the team is fucking a disaster this year, at least I have distraction of some good video games. Because goddamn,
those open world ones are good too. So
yeah. This one's supposed to be dope. All right, well, let's introduce our guest. You've seen him on the show before. He's been here several times over the years that I've done it. 2+ years. I don't even know anymore. I lost track. Joe Borek from Sports Fanatic, also from Flyers Nitty Gritty. He does a lot of our AHL, ECHL coverage, also NHL coverage. Obviously you've heard him before, so he's here to talk it up. He obviously knows what he's talking about. Joe, welcome back to the show. What's going on, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always a pleasure to talk. It would be better if the season was going better, but I've always been in combined. Most seasons I'm in combined draft mode with the way that even if the season's going great, because I just love paying attention to prospects. It happens significantly quicker when your season's going downhill like this.
Yeah.
Where then you just, like you said, kind of get into it earlier where we saw a couple guys that are going to be in the draft, in the Olympics, and they all look really good. So that should definitely help them for their draft trajectories. That's for sure. Like the Slavkovskys, Nemec's of the world, and et cetera, et cetera.
For sure, man. And I love that you brought that up. And, Vasili, I think we've talked about this already, but like I've seen some stuff online where people are like, this is not a good draft. And like, I'm going to say it over and over again. Even the 2017 draft, people thought it wasn't a good draft.
That was pretty
always
draft.
Elite players in a draft.
Exactly.
And this draft has at least 10 guys slated to be top dudes. And right now the Flyers. Go ahead.
Chances are too. I mean, with the in-tune prospect people we've talked to with Steve Kernianos and Russ Cohen, they were touting this prospect pool. So for people like that who are in tune to it, and then you yourself as well, Joe, who are in tune to the prospects. I mean, when you see guys who are analyzing them in depth like that, getting excited, that it's a deep draft. So we're not going to take their word and kind of like go against that. So I would say that's 100% correct from them, that it is a deep draft, and we could see, a whole wealth of prospects who are picked, be contributors in the NHL.
Yeah. And honestly, to add to that, and this might sound stupid to some people, and like, you should not go off of statistics purely when it comes to players' potential or any of that stuff. But if you do look at the statistics and you understand the leagues that you're looking at, and you understand the pace that some of these guys are on relative to the league that they're in and their age, you can see like, okay, there's definitely something. When you see like 17-year-olds playing against men and their point per game pace, scoring like half a goal a game, that's not normal. That's
typically a good sign.
For a prospect. Exactly. It's not normal. Yes, it depends on the men's league, but again, if you know the caliber of the league that they're playing, it's kind of like the same reason you get excited about somebody like Tyson Forrester, going on the tear that he was on when he was on the Phantoms. Yeah. Right. It's like 19-year-olds usually don't do that. It's a fantastic sign. Joe, would you not agree with what I'm saying?
No, I agree. The other guy that I would throw in there, obviously, Wisdom is still in his OHL ages. and ended up playing. Willman could have been an overager. Kirk McDonald pointed that out to me when I was talking to him involving Reading. He could still be an overager in the juniors, where he's already saw some time in the AHL, has been successful, and has been very good for Reading. So I think the development team is starting to move in the right direction. You guys talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast of bringing in the guys from the Kings, who obviously have have had good success and won Stanley Cups over there, bringing in people from their development team. So I think it's about continuing to move in that direction to help these guys grow, because Briere said it in his first pregame with Taryn, was we need to develop better and we need to draft better somewhat as a whole, but also then when you draft guys that are talented, you can't screw them and mess up their development like the Flyers have with some guys over the course of time.
Yeah, it's definitely for sure. Joe, your camera froze. We can hear you fine. You want to just turn your camera off and turn it back on? I don't know if you know how to do that. See if
okay.
Get your camera unstuck. Should be a little camera button in the left side of your screen to stop video.
It might be. Yeah, it could be because my computer has that loading ring up. It's doing some weird thing.
Well, your audio is fine. It's all good. We can still hear you, so maybe don't. But if you turn off the camera and try turning it back on, like in your menu, it could, jar it back up. I don't know. It happens. It's not really your fault. It's just one of those computer things. Yeah. But we can hear you fine, so that's important.
So we're good to go there.
All right, let me give a shout out to the sponsor real quick before I forget, because quite frankly, I've been forgetting lately. Shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks on South Street. Go get some cheesesteaks at Jim Steaks. I bet they're still Flyer fans.
Probably.
Yeah.
With all those steaks, I mean, it makes the games, I think, at least watching lately, a little more tolerable. So
yeah, sad eat your way through the through the season. And then, immediately go on a diet when it comes to summertime. But for now, cheesesteaks, Jim Steaks on South. They're Flyer fans. Make sure to get a steak from Jim's. Joe, you doing all right over there? All right. So Flyers lose 6 in a row. I obviously a lot of people are upset about this, but this losing streak, and like I've said it before, it's like this losing streak doesn't feel like the first one of the year where we lost 10 in a row. Like, yes, the Flyers are losing, but they lost a lot of close games, where a lot of these games where you can look at them and be like, well, if they had the talent that is supposed to be part of this team that injuries did not take away. And again, the amount of injuries this year is daunting. Not only is it Sean Couturier, not only Ryan Ellis, those two alone are immense. You add Kevin Hayes, you add the fact that we lost Farabee for long periods of time, that Brassard, who was playing really well, has been out. Other guys have been in and out of the lineup at times. And then you add on the top that Tanner Laczynski and Wade Allison, who are both supposed to be big parts of this team this year, neither one of them has been able to play for the Flyers or the Phantoms really for any significant amount of time whatsoever, though Tanner Laczynski is playing tonight as we record this and already had a goal early in this year. But this team, it's just lacking firepower to be a even average team in the NHL. So 6-game losing streak at this point, I'm pretty numb to it. But I did like to see that the Flyers were competing, playing hard. And we'll get into it, but I do think Mike Yeo deserves credit for that. Vasili, I'll go to you first, and then Joe. What do you think about the 6-game losing streak?
As you, spoke about there, and I think we alluded to last week, like this patch and rough patch of just losing a bunch of games feels a lot different than the past two with the 13-game losing streak, and then the 10-game initial losing streak with the Lane Vigneault. And a lot of it, I think, is effort based, and it's centered around effort. Like if you look at the first 10 games that were lost, a lot of those you saw the team kind of quitting or not trying as hard as maybe you've seen in the past few games or handful of games against the Blues, Hurricanes, and then even before that. I think there's definitely a lot of more concise play just with their, passing, trying to move up as a unit, but it's just the lack of talent at this point. And you can tell, right, they're right into games up until the last 5 minutes or even up until overtime, and then they just don't have the ability or, the mental fortitude to kind of put it all together and find a way to win. It's almost like they're kind of learning how to win at this point, which, there's a lot of young guys on the team, so that's obviously a valuable thing for them to want to learn. So you got to give Mike Yo credit that they've gotten them turned around to the point where, I mean, they're actually playing to an effect where they can be competitive with these other good teams. It's just when you're, missing your top two centers, arguably your best defenseman, and a ton of other players and other depth, it's going to be hard to, keep up with some of the better teams in the league and actually win these games. So,
yeah, well said. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, with the losing streak, I kind of have at this point. They've played better in Washington. They blew it in the end. In Pittsburgh, against Pittsburgh, they blew it in the end, and then in Detroit, they blew it in the end. Where that's kind of been the realm we've been seeing too much lately. Where then, of course, against Carolina, we fought back to get at least a point, so that was something different there. So they've been playing better effort-wise, and I think Yo deserves credit for that. At the same token, I'm still not ready to say at this point, do I think Mike Yo's the right guy going forward? I'm not ready to commit to that yet by any stretch of the imagination, because I still think there's many flaws in the way they're doing things. I like how Mike Yo has moved guys up in the lineup where AV has dumbfoundingly knocked on that in the past. Where, like, if Ratcliffe was playing this good with AV, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still on the fourth line. So, but that's something that annoyed me with AV. But with the way things are now, Russ kind of talked about it when you guys had him on. Why the hell am I still watching Keith Yandel? Why am I still watching Kevin Kennard some nights? Who the hell wants to watch? Like I love Keith Yandel too. I loved every podcast I watched him. He's one of my favorite players of my life that I've watched, but he's not good anymore. And the point of being is, if you're not good and you're a team that sucks, just start playing the young guys. Let them get the opportunity. Russ said it, and I've said too. Zamula is better than Keith Yandel. Zamula, they're also both all better than Sealer, but the difference with Sealer is, at least in the grouping with him, he's actually performed like a regular seventh fill-in defenseman. He's done his job, and he didn't even play last season. Where that's the problem I have with setting the precedent. You move guys up in the lineup, which sets the precedent of you rewarding people, but then you keep playing guys that are clearly at the twilight of their career, and the Canardans and Sealers that shouldn't be in the lineup each night. Not the Canarders and Yandels, and then Sealer's a guy that actually has been played like a seventh defenseman. If you want to play any of them, he should have been the guy you were at least playing to fill in, but even then, you should just let Zamula, York, and then even eventually Jamie's called for, because we need right shot defensemen, and he's played really well this year. Let Wyatt Wiley get some games, because at the point of when you're in no return in terms of contending, that's when you should be like the Arizonas of the world and the other teams, and what the Senators have been in the past few years, where you just start in the last couple months of the season saying, let's let everybody get the cups of coffee, where we see how much that's helped the Drake Bathersons of the world that are now great players for them. They got those cups of coffee early in their careers to get the first feel for the NHL. I feel like sometimes the Flyers temper people's development because it's too roller coastery. They tend to call somebody up for a bit, bring them back down, call them up, bring them back down. Where Frost, I eventually understood because I found out he was sick. So that's why he stayed down longer. But for like York and for Zamula and others, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense why they're still down.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing with like Yandel, because I think it's like a combination of the coach's feedback to the GM. Because like if you look at, and I actually wanted to bring this up on the podcast, if you look at the end of the last game, actually the end of most games, when the Flyers are down a goal, like Keith Yandel is the one that's out there.
And
it's
Provorov as a D2,
yeah, but Provorov makes sense to me. But like
Yandel doesn't.
no.
Well, why isn't Travis Sanheim out there?
Who's playing really well too.
Yeah, but it still ends up being Yandel, and I feel like a lot of this comes down to, and I don't think, and I hate when people say that this is like a problem with the Flyers. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's a problem with, I don't even know if it is a problem. It's a tendency of NHL coaches. The same way where, like, you know, you work at a job and the guys who have more experience, they're the ones who get, you know, tapped on the shoulder to deal with problems, even though there might be a younger guy or girl that are in the, you know, ability to help that situation more. A lot of times it just goes to seniority. And I feel like that's kind of what we're watching. Having said that, I don't disagree that I personally would like to see the cups of coffee. Like a guy like Isaac Ratcliffe, like what was the harm in calling him up earlier? And
look how good he's doing now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to be honest with you, though, I do see this. And again, I don't watch the Phantoms even as much as you do, Joe. But from what I understand, like even if you look at the Phantoms lineup, like they're prioritizing older players over young guys in the lineup, where the younger guys are playing lower down in the lineup and older guys are playing. Like we have guys who are ECHL players playing in the top 6. Now they're doing well. Don't get me wrong. Like Hodgson and Ollie, right? Like Charlie Gerard.
Kyle, Charlie Gerard. You've also brought in what's his name? I'm trying to remember. Brandon Saunier, who played in the ECHL and sometime and now is good for the Phantoms.
But these guys are getting, sorry to cut you off, but these guys are getting time above younger guys like German Rubtsov. I saw is all the way at the bottom of the lineup.
Same with Shush goes on that fourth line with Rubtsov as well. Like
exactly.
It doesn't make sense why you wouldn't give those prospects that are like in-house the opportunity at least to play in those situations high in the lineup, all types of minutes, because they are ultimately, first, second round, third round picks. So why not?
And to add to that, and Joe, maybe you can answer this question: was Isaac Ratcliffe being used on the power play?
On occasion, yeah, he was mixed. He was mixed in, but he wasn't always used on the power play.
But
sometimes that's when they would use the O'Reillys, the Hodgson, because also. I think this year, and Tony and I talked about it at the game, it seems like they're not the same type of player at all, but it seems like Hayden Hodgson's the Willman of this year, where you went from the Royals, then you went to the Phantoms, and became a ridiculous talent for the Phantoms, and then you go to work your way. The difference with Willman to Hodgson is Willman's a speedster that plays at a high effort every night. Hodgson kind of fits into the old school fans are really going to like Hodgson because he fits into that Tom Wilson-ish category of he's going to ram shots home, but he's also going to kick the living crap out of somebody if they step up to his team, which is a good character to have. But at the same time, I agree, certain guys should play up. The one thing, though, I would say about Shushko is it seemed like they've tried to, which he's the one guy that I've talked about on videos and when I tweeted myself, that he's kind of developed into this elite penalty killer and defense that uses his speed, uses his stick positioning to cut down lanes, and then that also has led to, I think he has like 11 or 12 points this season because of his playmaking and speed. But he's kind of developed into this PK first defensive whiz, which I think in that sense, that might be the one guy the Flyers actually did give a report card to, like, if you do this, you're going to be maybe steadily in the NHL just as a great PKer, where maybe you wouldn't be steadily in if you're just a speedster playmaker because there's 1,000,005 of them all around. So, like, that's why I think they actually kind of just gave him a developing note where now I would say he should get more opportunity up because of how good his defense has developed. But the other side with the Phantoms is this organization does do a good job at scouting the ECHL and scouting. They honestly probably do a better job sometimes at scouting the undrafted people than they do at sometimes drafting the top, at scouting the people at the top of the draft. So, like, if those guys do well, you also don't want to knock them out. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. But there are opportunities where I've been at games or been watching games, and I'm like, well, I thought Ruby's, I saw Shushko, I thought whoever, Kyle, even since he's been in, has looked good tonight. Like, maybe since those are guys you want to, even though some are from ECHL, they're still young guys, you might want to give them more opportunities in certain games. Or Lappy started to do that more, but I think that's also a growth from learning how to be a guy that was first in player strategy and development to actually knowing how to strategically coach, which I think he's got much better at since 2022 started, and December, really. It took him a few months to learn the coaching side of things and not just the player management, so to speak, side of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, I'm not really upset about it. You know, it's like, I'm not angry at it. I get it. I can rationalize all the cases, but it's like, you know, a guy, you know, you just see stuff like Ratcliffe, and I'm like, for me, a guy like Ratcliffe, I'm like, okay, this is a guy, you know, I'm not saying he's touted to be a pure goal scorer at the NHL level. This is a guy who did really well in juniors. He has so many assets. It's like, I don't know. I worry sometimes that we fall under the line of like, well, I have my more experienced guy. I have my guy who is right for this top 6 forward position. But like a lot of times for the Phantoms, you know, it's about development. Like there was a situation with Frost earlier in the year where Frost was benched in like the third period and overtime. I remember people were pretty upset about it because the Phantoms probably should have had him out there, and Lappy chose to sit him. Yeah. You know, and I was like, everybody was upset about it. I was like, no, I get it. That's a development move. That's like, hey, we want more out of you. Here's a message sent. Cool. I get that. But then it doesn't seem as consistent with a guy like Ratcliffe, who this was under Scott Gordon too, where I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this is one of our most prized prospects. And it was obvious as soon as he got to the NHL level. And if you see his usage in the AHL, you're like, oh yeah, he's just another average guy for the Phantoms. Yeah. But he's not. He's not.
That's also what I don't think Max will be. And so I didn't mean to cut you off, Vasili, but I don't think Maxime will be when he gets caught up either. He'll become more useful because of how good he is at defense and also how quick he is able to use his defensive cuts to draw the transition play because of his skating ability. Where I feel like he's going to become like this offensive, almost like how when we used to have, this is a throwback player name, but a guy that was slower skating but great at defense. Blair Betts. Imagine Blair Betts being quick at skating with playmaking ability on top of the defense he had. That's what I think Sushko is going to be, which is why he will be a very valuable NHLer, because Blair Betts would have stuck around a lot longer and been an even more valuable NHL himself if he had the playmaking speed side of things and not just the face-off winning and defensive side of things. So I think when you put stuff in perspective, that's a perfect point, Yariv, because you have to realize how guys are played for what reason at the AHL level, where sometimes they're played down the lineup just because the coaches are seeing how well veterans are doing and want to try to get to the Calder Cup playoffs. It has literally nothing to do with their play and they're like them developing quicker. It's more, we want to win this year. So like the Adam Johnsons of the world you bring in, or for that, which is then which I really like the way Adam Johnson, he used to play for Wilkes-Barre, so a friend becomes a foe, but or a foe becomes a friend. But like it's you have Matthew Stromes of the world playing well since he came up. It makes sense to kind of keep these guys in and not load it. We did release Alexis Dayo, so that opens up another spot for somebody else to play. But I think that also is because we grabbed Adam Johnson. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. I agree it's kind of split, but the Phantoms, I would play the guys that have been doing really like the Hodgins, Kyles of the world, but some guys, if they're having struggle with games and the veterans, move them down for a game and let the guys that are playing really well down in the Ratcliffes of the world when he was down there in the Rubies to move up in particular games. That's something that they don't do as much as I've seen Mike Yo do, which is something I give him credit for.
And Vasili, I'm sorry, I'll let you comment in a second here, but if you look at the fact that Ratcliffe was playing on the top line with the Flyers last night.
It's kind of crazy. Right? And he was playing like fourth line with the Phantoms at certain point?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that opportunity is supposed to be given to him at the AHL level before he gets to the NHL. And if it was recognized at the NHL level, why didn't you guys recognize it at the AHL level? And I think Lappy's doing a very good job, by the way. I'm not sitting
I do too. Yeah, I do.
Shitting on Lappy. I don't understand why we keep going through this. And even Oscar Lindblom, who has played better, without a doubt, like we've had coaches sit him out of the lineup and then another coach being like, wait, what? And then putting him in the top six and then him flourishing. And it's like, what were you thinking to begin with? I know it's not NHL and you don't have like a rating for this guy next to his fucking name, but it's like, I don't understand like what. Sometimes
it's puzzling. It's puzzling. And that's the thing too, that is interesting. Cause a point I think that's been brought up a lot, especially with Ratcliffe coming up is, some guys are just better, at the NHL level than they are in the AHL. But I think if you never had the opportunity to begin with in the AHL, it's kind of hard to know that in the first place. So, I mean, why not give a guy the chance to play on the first line, the AHL second line, and then see from there, okay, if he succeeds, then you earn the call up. I think that's like the more traditional way of doing it. Maybe they, as you were saying and alluding to though, Joe, maybe they're trying to, develop certain aspects of somebody's game. So that's why they're playing in the positions that they are, which I mean, would make sense too. But I ultimately think if you're going to be playing at the NHL level, you want to play, high reps, high minutes, high intensity in the AHL first. But either way, it's encouraging at least to see a guy like Ratcliffe up. And with, more guys getting traded probably coming up here, we might see some more of the young guys coming up as well. Like I know we all are, not into really seeing Keith Yandel, Connaught, and Sealer, all of those guys play. In a sense, I mean, I don't think management really can. I don't think they actively believe those three are better than a York Zamula. I think it's almost kind of like a stealth tank almost thing. Where
I think that's a GM decision.
Yeah,
I think
it is.
The players available are a GM decision. I think if York and Zamula were here, they'd be in the lineup.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I also think
go ahead, please.
said, Vasili, about like developing like the one things or whatever. Like I think they did a good job with Shushko with that. As a whole, I think the Flyers usually do a pretty bad job at doing that because their problem is they try to pigeonhole somebody into something they're not a lot of the times. Which is why I think Travis Sanheim took to now to kind of just say what some guys on the Phillies, when they were shoving too much stuff down their throat, eventually said, which was, screw you, I'm just doing my thing. Where, like, now it seems like he's jumping up on the play, doing what he was supposed to do from when he got picked up from juniors, which is in his scouting report. If you go back to read his scouting report, great at jumping up on the play.
Yeah,
needs to develop on the defensive end a little bit more. But the Flyers tried to make him into, like, the lefty Brett Pesce with offense off the bat, which is just not what he was. You should have let him develop. Some guys you can develop everything at once because they're just at that level, like the Matthews of the world. But most guys you have to do like it incrementally. Where with Sanheim, they should have let him be the great power play, be the great attacking defenseman, take that responsibility
the defense in afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, and work it in afterwards. The Flyers, for some reason, try to pigeonhole everything at once, and then they try to create somebody into something they're not, and it kind of screws with their development. There's a couple guys that they haven't done that to, but there's too many that they have. And
look at the Shane Gostisbehere story. Yeah. Like, everybody was complaining about this guy's defense. Dude, I hate this story so much. And like, I look at the fact we don't have a second round pick this year. And again, I'm not crying over this trade, but I just look at it and I'm like, you had a guy with an elite offensive skill set, explosive as hell when he first got here, like did so much offensively. And the only thing people fucking talked about was, oh, he's weak on D. He's not here now. And this team sucks at defense. So clearly he wasn't that bad at D. And
Arizona's back end power plays look better this year.
Well, dude, I just feel like people are always looking for a fucking scapegoat on every player that has a problem. And we're going to talk about Profrov. And I don't think I might not agree with you guys. I definitely don't agree with other people. And we'll get into that. But like, I look at Shane Gostisbehere, like we paid to move on from him. And like everybody keeps thinking it's going to solve our defensive problem. We get rid of this one guy. He led our D in points the year we traded a second round pick to get rid of the guy. And he's not even making that much.
You got nothing though. You didn't even get future considerations. You literally got nothing.
You got four. You ended up trading a first and 2 seconds and Robert Haig for and a 7 for Ristolainen. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, I like Risto, but these moves are made like, and this is why I wanted AV gone. When I see guys, and Yo is not doing this, when I see coaches complaining about the pieces they have, I go, you're full of shit. I'm going to get rid of you. Like, I wouldn't have waited to get rid of. As soon as I see a coach make excuses that the players he has aren't good enough, I don't give a fuck. You're fired.
He's always going to make excuses for any player that
your job is to get the most out of what I put in front of you, and that's it. I know if the team has a deficiency, right? Like as a GM, I know. I need you to make them better.
Yeah, you want to hear that from your coach, but you don't want to hear it in the sense of we need yada 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 because yada 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 is doing terrible and X Y. Yeah. Like you don't want to complain.
Shane Gostisbehere was removed. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's like, you look at the players that this organization moved on from, that was definitely a complaint of the coach.
Oh, 100%. Well, it looked like AV was more the general manager. I mean, I think other people have said this, though. But last offseason, it looked like Dave Scott basically told Chuck Fletcher, bow down to the almighty and listen to whatever
he wants.
Yeah, basically, and get him whoever he wants. Because all those moves were AV connections. There's no way that's by coincidence.
And what happens when Chip Kelly did that for the Eagles?
It didn't work at all.
Vasili, I don't know if you know this at all.
Yeah, it blew up in his face.
As a coach, your job is to take, just like if I'm a manager, right? Like I manage a team. My goal is to get the most out of the guys I have, not to go to my company and be like, these guys just are okay. Well, how can I get them that maybe they're limited to play the best they can play? And I still look at a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, which are a talented team. I still don't believe they're the most talented team. I think Brind'Amour doesn't care. He puts
people in positions to succeed, right?
Yes, and he'll get the most out of what he has.
That's the thing I think
Islanders,
that with
so
the
on.
Flyers, I mean, has been lacking a bit, right? Like you see with Gossespierre, at first they put him in a position to succeed. Then they kind of drew back and said, well, you know what? We like your offense, but you're taking too many chances. So we want you to play better defensively. Then you kind of neuter the offense because you have the player in his own head thinking, well, if I make one mistake, then I'm getting benched. So I don't want to, play how I usually play. That takes away from that, obviously. And I mean, maybe you could say they're doing a bit of the same thing with kind of Morgan Frost in a sense where they're focusing on his defense too much and they should just let him loose and kind of say, hey, you're really good offensively. Show us what you have. If the mistakes happen, okay, they happen. We'll work at that, but that you're not going to get sent down. Or you're not going to lose ice time. You're not going to be benched, right? And thing is, that's in the back of a player's head. If you're playing and well, if I make one mistake and I'm not going to be playing anymore, you're probably going to be more conservative versus playing to your instincts and what you usually would do. So that's obviously something that needs to be improved, but Yo's done a better job of putting guys in successful positions. I mean, we've seen in the last little bit, since he's taken over, Konechny, Lindblom, Sanheim have all been playing a lot better. And I know that was a topic we wanted to get into as well. I believe under Yo so far, all of them are on like a great point pace. So you guys want to, jump into that one there?
Well, I think Yo has let people be more themselves. Where I was going to say when Yariv said something about Ghost, Tourney, with how Yo's kind of talked about, we just got to get the culture back. We kind of have to get paraphrasing what we said, but the vibe's going in the right direction before we think we're going to get the on ice thing working in X, Y, and Z perfectly, which I completely agree with. Tourney for the Coyotes said the same thing with, I'm just going to let players play like themselves. This isn't the season we're trying to win, where obviously coming into the season, the Flyers thought they were going to be more successful. But at this point, you're kind of at that same level where it's like, we St. just want to let did
that
guys.
Too. Sorry to cut you off.
St. Louis, exactly.
He did that as well.
And they on a 3 or 4 game winning streak now. So, like, if you let guys kind of just loosen up and be them, it's going to go a long way. And we saw that with Sanheim as the prime example. We already mentioned him here, but he's been jumping up on the offense way more than he has with AV, with Mike Yo. And I think that's because he just said, do what you've done your entire career. Don't worry about, we have a guy with you in Ristolainen that's going to slap somebody silly if he tries to come back. Anyways,
good compliment
just move up on offense if you're able to move up on offense. And something that I think the Flyers have been doing a little bit better, Kirk McDonald, which I never thought of this, but he said it to me as the Royals head coach. Some coaches play positionally or positionlessly. Like they don't play with positions when they get in the offensive zone. They just say, if you see the puck, attack it, make the nice play, and then get back. Well, obviously, once you get back, you got to get back into your position. But I never really thought of it that way, where it seems like the Flyers, when they have the Sanheims on the ice and they have other guys that can attack, like when York was up, they were starting to do that more and let them go in deeper if they were going to be able to make the play.
If you see a good play and you can make it, then go ahead and make it.
Laviolette did that.
And then worry about the defense after because, there could be a goal based out of it. But under Yo so far, just for the stats,
go ahead.
We have Konechny, 63-point pace, Lindblom, 50-point pace, Sanheim, 47-point pace. And Sanheim also has 15 even strength points in 27 games under Yo. So
I didn't realize it was that good. That's even better than I thought he was.
Yeah. So like he's doing really good. They're all doing really good. And that's the thing that kind of shows that at least the prior coach wasn't getting the most out of these guys. And he obviously was restricting them in terms of the way they're playing now and restricting their abilities and natural abilities, at least with Sanheim, I think for sure. And Konechny, I think
and
he was
Lindblom.
Lindblom. The thing with Lindblom is
the fourth line.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that was more of like not telling Lindblom how to play, but it was just positioning. Like they weren't putting him in the right position to
succeed.
Yeah, they just put him onto the fourth line with guys that there's not enough skill there for him to get the points that he can, get playing with a Giroux Atkinson or playing with a, Lawton Konechny like he's doing right now. I think the interesting thing is that now that you see Konechny and, Sanheim kind of getting the reins taken off of them, it took a few games for them to settle in kind of back into, the play that we're used to, but you do see them being a lot more active, a lot more scoring opportunities where there was a stretch there where both of them weren't creating anything whatsoever. So there's still obviously talent there. Like they're not talentless players, but it's a work in progress. Obviously, still for them, you want to make sure the consistency continues.
I do want to add that I agree with everything you just said, Vasili. And I do want to add this, and then Joe, if you want to chime in, it's one thing that I'm going to talk about all the time. People, and I still think people think I'm crazy when I say this stuff, because I listen to, other podcasters and they do not agree with this at all. These guys are not done developing. They're going to be inconsistent at times. Like even a guy like Kyrou, right, for St. Louis, he's 23. He's now having a breakout year in a team that's exploding offensively, everybody at once. Like,
it's all different.
You have to allow for ebbs and flows. These guys are not done getting used to
linear. It's not linear. That's the thing, right? And people, a lot of the times, at least in this modern day NHL, I think since so many young guys come in so early, they think, guy comes in, has a good season, and then to the moon. But sometimes there's ups and there's peaks and valleys, ups and downs. Like, you have to live with it, right? You can't just give up on a guy because he had a bad, 15, 20 game stretch. That's the thing. So.
Well, I have a perfect
player
for that example is Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller for the Coyotes came in on at 20, had a great start to his career, dampened off a little bit, still was like solid, but not what he started off as. Everyone's like, oh my God, Clayton Keller's not what we thought. We paid Clayton Keller $7 million. He's not what we thought he was. And he's only 20 years old. And now this year he's back to doing great again. So it's phenomenal. And he's a guy that I always, from that point, had a defensive standpoint for, because I'm like, you have to, like Vasili's hit it on the head. That's why I love being on this podcast, because you guys look at stuff objectively like that. Everybody develops differently. Yeah. Strome's in the same fashion. Look at I'm blanking on their new head coach's name. I think it's Smith, but Derek Smith maybe, but the guy for the Blackhawks now. Yeah. Ever since he's taken over, he's moved Dylan Strome up, and Dylan Strome has then gone back to how he was at the beginning of his career and has looked a lot more confident and has kind of been this late bloomer, similar to how his brother Ryan was a late bloomer in New York. So, like, it seems like these guys all just develop at different rates. And also, when you see the dedication of, like, guys that especially come from – everybody has a great dedication, but the guys that come from the innately hockey families, those are the guys I tend to never worry about, because they have the roots of the guys being like, look, you need to do
everything behind them.
Everybody's going to say, this is what I did to get through this now.
And there's a lot of advice to be drawn upon when families into
like Nolan Patrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love to bring that up because most people don't talk about the fact that his uncle is one of the best defensemen of all time.
How is he now, by the way?
I think he's out right now.
He's out for a while. I don't think they said concussion, but it looks like a
poor kid, man. Like, honestly,
can't catch a break. It really sucks to see it.
So as we're talking about this topic, like I want to bring up another player that, you look at the 2017 draft, and I love this player. I think we can say we all love this player, right? Like, nobody's saying Elias Pettersson is not amazing. Okay. Right? Yeah. Like, he's extremely talented. He's got 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points, 52 games this year, right?
He's not like point a game like he usually is.
Oh, let me ask you something. Do you guys question his ability to be a superstar in the NHL?
No, he's very talented. He's going to be really good.
Right. How old is he? He's 23 years old. Do you think that if that was happening here in Philly, that people would not be going, well, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was?
I mean, just based on the negative perspective a lot of people have, probably, but he's still only 23.
That's exactly what they would do.
He's a kid. He's only 23 years old. Like,
how old is Morgan Frost?
23 years old. They're not close to being 22. Nonetheless, they're not close to being developed, both of those players, in my opinion. But you have to take the time, and like I was saying before, it's not all linear. And you have to put these guys in positions to succeed. Obviously, Pettersson came in and, got those top line minutes. He got those power play reps. Now we're slowly just seeing a guy like Frost being, given first power play opportunities with Giroux the last game, playing with, a little more freely in terms of who they're going to match him up with defensively. They're not, sheltering him as much as they were initially. So there's progress there. I assume as Giroux gets traded and a couple, more guys will see Frost elevated even into a bigger role, which I would like to see personally, because, there's not much time left in this. Like, there is a lot of games left in the season, but from a development standpoint, there's, not so much time left to get him a cup of coffee before it's the next, season, and he's getting ready for that. So I think, the more reps you give a guy like Frost at this point, the better. So it's all gravy from there.
I also think from doing stuff like covering the sport for us and Flyers Nitty Gritty, it gives you a background perspective on, like, as fans, we don't realize these guys are just normal people, so they go through the same things as normal people. Like Morgan said he could barely eat when he was down with the Phantoms. He was sick. He was playing through something. He basically just drank stuff some days and then just jumped onto the ice and played. So obviously that's going to affect your energy and your stamina if you're just having smoothies and can't even eat the normal thing so like we don't always take that into the factor of
they're humans, not robots.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I think needs to be pointed out sometimes too. Where we did this. A lot of the town did the same thing with Patrick. Where obviously, if you have a migraine, it's going to beat you down in life because you want to be doing the thing you love. And he's even said that since he's been in Vegas, it's hard to not be able to do the thing you love. So
yep, 100%. And then I want to name another guy who's having a ridiculous season, Dylan Larkin. Okay, here's another guy who came in explosive his rookie year. I mean, I'll go through his statistics, right? Rookie year, great rookie year, 23 goals, 22 assists, 45 points, a plus 11. His second year in the league, 17 goals, 15 assists, 32 points, minus 28 in 80 games. Third year, 16 goals, 47 assists, which obviously great. 63 points in 82 games, minus 9. Then the following year, 73 points. Then the following year, 53 points. Then last year, 9 goals, 14 assists, 23.
Really down.
Another down year. And then this year, a monster year. This is objectively one of the best young centers in the league. I remember just as an outsider hearing people question Dylan Larkin, and I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, and I mean this honestly, like, I like see this type of stuff and I feel like maybe you're too close to the situation. Right. And
you're not objective with it. Right.
And here's my pivot. Okay. And let's get into this because this is obviously a huge topic of conversation right now. Is Yvonne Profrov. Okay. Nobody can say he had a great game last game. Right. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. Right. I would even say he's had some mediocre games of late. The conversation, obviously Keith Jones, smart enough and responsible enough to bring up the obvious factor that the kid is playing 27 minutes a night, third most in the NHL, and just clearly being overused in a very tough situation, probably wearing on him, most likely. And I look at the fact that he's a year younger than Travis Sanheim. We just talked about Sanheim's up and down. Right now, he's coming in like he's coming through a flow where he's doing really well. He might struggle again at some point, right? He's about to turn 26 years old in March. And I look at Yvonne Profrov and I hear everybody saying, everybody, smart people I respect. And it to me, personally, you guys might not agree with this. It is complete background noise to me. Like I hear this stuff and I go, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. I'm not saying that I'm going to be like, oh, he has been amazing. What are you guys talking about? I'm going, he's a 25-year-old defenseman who's playing 27 minutes a night on a team that is struggling. I am completely open to the idea that he might be going through a struggle period, that he might need some additional support outside of Justin Braun being his top pairing defensive partner for an entire year.
Yeah.
And a team that, quite frankly, isn't playing very well and hasn't played well as a unit. And he's the one carrying that shoulder. And I love Sanheim. I have zero interest in getting rid of him. I think very highly of him. I think he's the second best defenseman on this team outside of obviously Ellis, who barely have seen. But I still look at this and I go, okay, you want to take the minutes away from Provorov. Fine. I'm open to it. Completely open to it. He's being overused. Who's getting those minutes? And not only that, who's getting those minutes? And when you inevitably give those minutes to Sanheim on a regular basis, like you do to Provorov, you're going to watch him suffer also, because that's what we're doing to Provorov. We're forcing him to be an elite veteran defender when and we've been doing it for 3 years, 4 years. He's wasn't ready to be there to begin with. And we've nonstop done it to him. And now every time he has a mediocre game, if you guys remember his rookie year where he had the -5 game against the Blackhawks, everybody freaks the fuck out and goes, this is not the guy we thought. He's struggling, blah, blah, blah. I get it. It's entertaining. At the end of the day, to me, it's utter background noise. All I want to see is you just keep going out there. Definitely reduce his minutes. You're overplaying him. I think we can all agree with that. And I'll stop in a second here. Sorry, I just got
no, that's okay.
And I'm just really frustrated with this whole thing where you're taking that. We do this every time. We did this to Jake Voracek when he was here too. And now we can't get the puck in the fucking zone. We take a guy who's the best at what he does on our team. And if he's not everything gold and dandy, we go, he sucks. He's a problem. Yeah. And I go, no, he needs help.
Well, look at the team and how bad they are this season, right? Like, the team is terrible this season. That's an obvious thing.
Yeah.
You have Provorov playing 27 minutes a night on a terrible team. His stats aren't going to look good. There's going to be giveaways. There's going to be mistakes. It's a terrible team in general. As you alluded to, he needs support. You have a guy in Justin Braun who is a third-pairing defenseman.
But he's serviceable.
Yeah, he's serviceable, but he's on a good team. On most teams, he's probably a third-pairing defenseman. He's playing, 20 minutes, 19, 18 minutes a night most of the time, Braun, around that range, I would say, or something along those lines. I mean, I don't have it right off the top of my head. But if you have, a guy who should be a top-pairing defenseman playing with a guy who's a third-pairing defenseman, it's at the adequate support. If you think about the level of talent that is going up against Provorov on most nights, which is probably other teams' best players, probably not. So you're, asking and burdening a guy who is, a young defenseman when he's playing against top players with somebody maybe who is kind of out of his element in terms of the level of talent and minutes he should be playing at this point with Braun. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I mean, maybe they are playing him a little too much. Maybe you could take away some minutes, but as you were saying too, they're just going to give those minutes to a defense that probably hasn't been the greatest. So you're probably going to have the same thing happen most of the time.
Probably worse.
Yeah. So it really is what it is. It's give the minutes to Provorov or get more Sealer and Yandel in there.
And I would, and Joe, I'm sorry, I'll let you talk. I just want to get this out because this has been bothering me all day. You're okay. One of the things that I've heard quite often, and shout out to Martinez, he said on his podcast a few times, awesome guy, smart hockey guy. This is not a knock on him at all. He's thrown around trade stuff. I'm going to trade Konechny and Provorov for Mitch Marner. I'd never do that. Sorry, I know people might not agree with that. I'm not interested in that trade. Konechny for Marner, Konechny plus for Marner completely makes sense to me. I'm not doing that, and I don't want another $11 million contract here, especially for a winger. But the other thing he said is like, and then I'm going to go get Chikrin from Arizona. Great young defenseman.
Also really bad this season.
2 goals, really 9 assists, minus 28, 11 points in 39 games.
Well, I mean, it's just math, right? If you're on a bad team that's not good and you play tons of minutes, your stats aren't going to be good. It just
nailed it. Yeah. Nailed it. Go ahead, Joe. Feel free to comment.
Well, I don't get why because people will give goaltenders, but which rightfully so. You should give a goaltender that has a crap defense
the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
So why don't we give defensemen the same benefit of the doubt when they don't have other people around them? Where when it comes to the Flyers, I think the one thing, that's why I brought up why we should call up some of the defense earlier that they could give Provorov less time on, is the power play if they give Sanheim more time on it. And even though he's not fully ready for it yet, but just so you give Provy less time. Though. It's not like Yandel has been great on the power play.
They should give Sanheim.
I'm talking about Sanheim. I was talking about York's not fully ready for it yet. The reason I would call up Cam York is Sanheim should be your power play one defenseman, and then if you want to go 4 forwards, have 4 forwards, which
then York
have 4 forwards with York on the second to let him just keep developing, because then that's going to alleviate Provorov having to even play the power play, which is, I think, the end goal anyway in the future. I don't think the Flyers want, when everybody develops and the Yorks, the Zamulas, and their defense is kicking in all cylinders in a year or two, I don't think they envision Provy being.
Well, that's understandable though, because then you're playing to your guys' strengths. Like obviously Sanheim and York are bigger power play plus players than Provorov, who, I mean, he's not the best at that point, man. Quarterbacking, he has a good shot in the power play. If you're gonna have Provorov in the power play, my personal preference would be they tried earlier this season. They had him kind of at like the left half wall circle.
Yeah.
And I felt like his shot would get through a lot more than from the top of the key. So if you were going to use him, do something like that. But you're right, 100%. Hits the nail on the head there, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to put – I think when you call guys up, it's like Yariv, it's hard to give other guys minutes elsewhere, but the power play is where you could take the minutes away from him.
100%
lessen his minutes. which is what I think they need to do. That's why you're not going to put Nick Sealer on the power play. You guys talked about it with Russ, I think, where the Flyers are the first team in his entire career that have actually played Risto in the role that he should be played in, because they drafted him as an all-around guy, so Buffalo then had to play him on the power play, had to play him do everything like you said.
They didn't have anybody else.
I watched that episode where you said that, where they had to do that. The Flyers don't, so you don't want to put him back on the power play because that's not his jam. So, like, that's why I think you need to call up those guys that can do it. Zamula's even been on the power play. He's a guy that's been on the power play a lot with Lehigh. So you can call him up, and he can even do it at times for your second team when you have him.
Two-way guy.
So I think it makes sense to have those guys up, not just to get them cups of coffee, but also to just do what's the inevitable in the future. Get Provorov off the power play so he can play less minutes.
Yeah. No, I think I love what you said there. But both of you guys, like, if you want to reduce his minutes, that's where you can do it. Like, I still don't understand why Sanheim is not getting it elevated on the power. I don't get it. It's not like your power play is it's not like your power play is like 18th in the league.
It's like 30th in the league. So you might as well just try anything at this point.
You got nothing to lose.
And the thing is, he's their best, offensive defenseman on the team right now in Sanheim. And I understand they respect Provorov's shot, and that's probably why they keep him there, because he has a big shot. We've seen him have
also worry about the shorthanded goals.
That too. So
Sanheim's competent.
Exactly. So why not give him a chance? And it's puzzling to me. Maybe we'll see some of it. Maybe we'll see some of it.
I think it's coming. No, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think you're spot on. I think it's coming. And to our frustration with the veterans, I think that Fletcher is kind of buying time a little bit. He's like playing these guys. Most of them are gone, if not by the trade deadline. In the off season, there's
trying to showcase a bit. For some guys, he's like people were screaming last night, "Oh, why don't we see Ustimenko in?" Well, because they're trying to trade Jones, so they're gonna play him when they can.
Also, I wouldn't debut Usti against the Blues.
It's
not really the game the team I want to throw him in a debut.
Sandstrom's injured right now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Felix banged up.
And Airson.
Yeah. Bad luck, just his team.
Sam's really bad luck because Sam came back twice
and got injured. Right?
Played a game, got injured in the game, and had to be removed. Wow. So, talk about shit luck. That's really bad.
Dude. This season has been
the worst for injuries.
The worst injury. I know it's okay. Everybody hates the Flyers medical staff right now. I get it. I totally get it.
It can't be that much of a coincidence.
Much of
a coincidence that their medical staff's terrible, so all these guys are getting injured.
I don't think they're great, but I don't think that they're
not causing the injuries.
and I don't think they're causing the re-injury. This is the worst injury season I've ever seen. And mind you, Jim McCrossan's been the head of the medical staff the entire time I've been watching the Flyers. Yeah, the entire time. So there are some years it goes well, and some years we don't have many injuries. This is not his fault. I'm not saying he should keep his job forever. I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying, if you look at Vegas, right?
Look at all their injuries.
Why isn't anybody saying fire their medical staff?
Because they're having a good season, and you don't bring stuff like only stuff like this will come out of the woodwork if the team's doing terrible. If the Flyers are doing good, we're not hearing about their medical staff right now.
You're 100%
real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Did Stone have injury issues prior to going to Vegas?
Yes, he did. He had, I believe, a bit of back injury, something along those lines. Yeah,
I want to say he was a back. Yeah, I think you're right.
There you go. Okay, so same thing with a guy like Ellis.
And what did he re-injure his back?
Pacioretty was banged up in Montreal.
A lot.
Yeah. So then he's been banged up in that.
Yeah, this year the problem with the Flyers is that we lost the most important players on our team, almost all of them, for a significant amount of time. And that's one thing that drives me nuts is that people are still pretending that this is our squad.
It isn't. It's half not. AHL players.
We're not a great team. All healthy, the way we were playing. Do I think this is a Stanley Cup team or even a Stanley Cup contender that can go to the bottom four options? No, I don't see that. But do I see a team that's competent enough to make the playoffs?
Yeah,
probably talent-wise, maybe a bubble team at least. This is not a bot, and that's why. And Joe, I don't know if you heard us saying this, but take advantage of the bad season. Stop freaking out, everybody. And this is where I do look for Fletcher, and I think this is what he's going to do. He's not going to go crazy like everybody wants. He's going to let a lot of veteran guys go, and he's going to bring in new veterans. and people are going to complain about them too. Just like people complained about Ryan Hartman when he was here, and people complained about that return. And I was saying to everybody, and I got mocked for this online. I'm like, guys, this is a late first round pick. This is what they are.
They're still value. Yeah.
They're middle six forwards. I was like, it's a guy who up and down, and now he's playing top line center for Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a top line center guy.
Like with Kirill Kaprizov, he's serviceable.
Exactly. Yeah. When you find the Connor Sheary to the Sidney Crosby situation.
Exactly.
It's a perfect combination. Why
can't we be fucking Penguins? This sounds awful to say. Why can't we be the Penguins where we literally people are complaining the Flyers' lack of. I still don't agree. I was actually just listening to Broadsheet Hockey, and I was listening to Charlie O'Connor, and I respect him, and I honestly respect all of them. It's totally fine. When I disagree with people, it's not me saying that they're dumb or anything. But this whole the Flyers don't have the talent, I don't buy that shit either.
I don't think they have the shooting mentality enough. That's why, like, TK scored 24 goals in 3 straight seasons and is a great playmaker. But at times when you have a wide open lane, you shouldn't be looking to play me.
100%.
That's the thing where Atkinson brought that early. Mayhews brought it to the bottom 6. You need to get more guys that bring that fire mentality. That's why I think Philippe Forsberg is a perfect guy for the Flyers. If you're talking about a veteran, bringing in a veteran.
Forget about it. He'd be amazing.
In the offseason because he just shoots. Where Johnny Gaudreau's nice and everything.
He's a playmaker.
And everything, but they're playmakers first and foremost.
No. And that's not even what I'm talking about. It's just like, we have like Tyson Forrester, right? That's a guy who's shoot first mentality.
Shooter, yeah.
Allison's a shooter, to some degree. We could add that stuff, like no doubt about it. But
those guys will contribute. It's just you have to wait on them to get here, right? I mean, Allison
would stay healthy.
But it's also not the reason that we're bad.
No, that's true. Yeah.
The reason we're bad is because we play like shit as a team. Like
that too.
We can't. Our puck possession game, which has been a lot better of late, is not good.
And there's not a lot of cohesion too in the offensive zone in terms of like passing, making passing plays, understanding, hey, we have to work the puck low to high, back to low to kind of create an opportunity. Yes. Maybe that comes with the lack of skill. It's really hard. It's really hard to know, but I mean, when you're missing,
go ahead, please.
When you're missing as many, top end guys as they are, it's really hard for me to pinpoint and go crazy about, wow, this team's terrible. This team's so bad. Like, I think there was a stat. It's probably off the top of my head. It's not right, but it was something like with Couturier, the team's 500. Without him, they're like 1-13 or something like that.
Oh, well, we've seen that prior to this year.
Yeah,
too.
That's what I mean. So like, you take away a team's best players, how do you expect them to perform? And that's any team in the NHL. Take away any team in the NHL's top 2 centers, and like you have Hayes and Couturier out majority of the season. And it's not making excuses. The team needs to be better. But it's just the reality.
Remember, okay, I'm going to take a little minute here. I'm going to call out Russ Cohen, who, again, I think is one of the smartest hockey people in local. But I said a comment, and he didn't agree with me. And people don't understand. I've done the research on this, and people don't do it. And I know they don't, and I can hear them talking. I'm going to go through a team right now that we can all objectively say has done a great job at their rebuild, right? And is on their way with really good young players, right? Okay. The Detroit Red Wings. How many players in the last 4 years, let's go 5 years, have played in the NHL?
On Detroit?
That they drafted. 5 years since 2017.
Can I just throw out any numbers?
Throw out any number.
Game? I have no clue. I'm going to say like 7. Sure.
You actually nailed it.
Really? Wow.
7. Nice.
That's hilarious.
7 players out of, I don't even know the math here. Let's say I'm going to ballpark it here. I don't know, close to 30 players.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We'll go to Philadelphia, right? And let's look how many players from Philly have touched the NHL ice in the past 5 years. I didn't look this up before, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
So
they have 2 people. Detroit pulls from Frölunda in Sweden a lot, which is where
which I love. Don't get me wrong.
And what's that other? Elmer Soderblom, the 6'8" kid. That's huge. I
Dude, I use them as an example because I think they're doing a great job. I love Yzerman. I love their prospects. Everybody loves Morris
Stevie
Sider.
Oh,
Everybody loves that kid. Everybody loves Raymond. Like, I get it. Don't get me wrong.
It's a process, though. It's a process.
But the whole point I'm trying to say, and again, I would say the Flyers are average. They're not great.
They draft average. That's the reason why I was not but the one thing that I had a question to what you were saying. Yeah, is they picked, like, they had 7 guys ascend, but out of those 7, 2 are probably a future offensive star, and Lucas Raymond, who are the guys with Larkin, where we never found guys that were future stars with Giroux in the same category as Giroux. You have the Couturiers who are like the Backstroms, but like you never got where you have the Siders and you have Raymond there. We're thinking they're doing a 3-headed monster.
If you go, so let me go from 5 years back and out. Okay, so this is 2016 to let's go 2012. Okay, so it's 4 years. The Flyers drafted about 30 guys. Okay, how many do you think of those guys have played at least a game at the NHL level? But most of these guys have played more than that. None of them have only played one. Only Felix Sandstrom has played one game. How many of those guys, 2016 or 2012, 2016, have had pro experience that were drafted by the Flyers?
In between 12 to 16?
12 to 16 of, like, let's say about 30 players.
10.
What do you think, Vasili?
I'll do, I don't know, like 9 or 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
That's a lot. More than I would have thought.
So this is what I say to people when I understand the frustration. I'm there with everybody, but this is not a team that can't draft. We have lacked picking. Like, we missed.
I agree with that. I think
maybe there's some development points that are lacking, but the drafting. It's
not. It's also, you just have to draft. We've drafted the perfect finish your roster for the playoffs players. It's about drafting the next Couturiers, the next Giroux, the next. Well, we haven't.
But we actually did, because Yvonne Profrov, and again, Couturier didn't get good till he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
Yvonne Profrov was part of that group. Travis Konechny was part of that group. Felix Sandstrom is obviously very serviceable. Vorobiev, who seems promising, but obviously went away. Ivan Fedotov is part of that group, and he's not included in the NHL player list. Travis Sanheim is part of that group. Nicholas Aube-Kubel is part of that group. Oscar Lindblom is part of that group.
They also just drafted one of the best young at KHL goaltenders, Alexei Kozlov.
Exactly.
And I mean, even Tuomala looks like he might have some dynamic talent.
Wade Allison, Tanner Lazinski is part of that group.
They're good. I mean,
Nolan Patrick, Frost, Ratcliffe.
This is the thing. Like, people, I mean, this is a sentiment that I see a lot. Sentiment I see a lot on Twitter is that, I can't trust the Flyers, even if they get these good draft picks or positioning in the draft to make the right picks. And I mean, that kind of just disproves that they have the staff, and scouting staff available to, make these high-end picks that actually can hit. So I agree with you there. Like, and people will go back to the Patrick thing and say, well, they missed on Patrick. Well, you're not going to hit on every prospect, and it's the draft, and no team hits on every prospect. You can go through every single team's history and see high picks that they might have missed on.
You typically miss, and
exactly
that was like the Hextall, some of the Hextall era. Again, he wasn't perfect. He has misses.
Yeah,
obviously the Nolan Patrick one, right?
Every GM,
exactly. But and that's all I want. I'm not saying the Flyers have done a phenomenal job drafting. I'm saying they've done average to above average.
Yeah, par for the course.
And if they didn't fuck up on Nolan Patrick, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
I would say their issue is they drafted, like I said, a bunch of the Robins. You have Giroux, who's a Batman. Every other team has a couple a lot of the contending teams have a couple Batmans.
I don't.
Other than Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't, but Minnesota has Kirill. But
yes,
most teams do.
I am still very high on Joel Farabee personally, but I do agree with what you're saying. I think
Farabee. But like, if we compare Farabee to Gagne, like if where Jamie put Farabee with Gags, he was one of my favorite players growing up. But I would always say Gagne was one of the best Robins in the NHL. One of the best.
Was not. Gagne was not a franchise caliber player.
Exactly.
He's a guy you put with Peter Forsberg and
And I would say that's the ilk of Farabee. Like, he's not a
That's- yeah,
franchise
exactly.
level
Yes.
guy, but if
He's
you
an
have
all-star,
that guy,
Yeah, all-star level player, but not afraid. Like,
We have to find our next.
you can
Yeah.
make a case that Philip Forsberg is that level, right?
Yeah, and that's
That
what you're hoping that you
highly
get.
dominant
That's
player.
what you're hoping that happens with the Giroux trade. You get a guy that can be that next franchise
Yes.
guy, potentially either through the draft pick you acquire or potentially the prospect you acquire, or you get that guy in the draft based on your own positioning at the bottom of the league right now. And that's what they need to look for. They need to infuse younger guys into the team that have dynamic talent, that have high end talent, that can carry a franchise and that you can really build around, at least on offense, because that center depth is lacking for them.
And honestly, if I am Fletcher, to people's credit, there are teams out there that have a very shallow prospect pool, not like the Flyers, who have a bunch of guys who maybe not all elite, but I still like Jay O'Brien, right? Jack St. Ivany is obviously a guy who's interesting. We have there's a bunch of guys who I haven't even touched.
Yeah.
Bobby Brink, obviously. You have the ability to make a trade for an elite asset if you want it. I was listening to Flyers Daily again, and Mertitas was he had a question of why didn't the Flyers go for Eichel, and he was like, well, I don't think the Flyers had the assets to go for Eichel. I'm like, that is absolutely not true. They clearly did. And they didn't do it.
They just chose not to. Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, that is
maybe
where
that's
I'm
a salary
confused.
perspective. Maybe it's a salary thing. Yeah,
dude. I exactly. I don't think it's irrational. I just mean they have the assets to pull off a big trade.
Exactly.
They just don't want to do it for whatever reason. They don't agree with us. Maybe they will now because Kaprizov, he was I think a third round pick. If I remember,
I think
fifth round pick,
Even
drafted
better.
by Chuck Fletcher, by the way. These guys, we don't know when they're coming. Somebody from our pool will turn to be an elite player, most likely. You might not even know that he's coming.
It's just the probability of it. I mean, and just how a lot of these prospects are performing in juniors, college, stuff like that.
How old is Kaprizov, actually?
I think he's either 24, 25.
25 maybe.
Yeah.
So he hit at 23, right?
Yeah.
Well, he came over in his later
last season.
Yeah,
right?
23, 24.
Okay,
23,
well,
24,
imagine he was here and he was on the Phantoms,
Yeah.
How many people will be like, well, I guess he's not as good as we thought he was, and blah, 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 blah.
Or he's over in Russia, in our prospect pool still. A lot of people aren't, doing their due diligence kind of and looking into it too. So that's,
and I don't blame. And well, here's the essence of what I want to get to, and Joe, I'll let you comment in a second, is I don't think most of us, including myself, because this happens to me too, have the patience that it really takes to wait for these guys to develop.
It's true. Yeah. It takes time. And like we were saying before earlier in the show, it's not linear. It's not a process that you can fixate and put.
It's a frustrating,
it's not
hard process.
It's not a process you can fixate and say, okay, we drafted this guy 3 years ago. He's going to be ready 3 years from this date. On this day, he's going to be in the NHL. There's no way to project that with anybody, right? So you just have to roll with the punches, build a strong prospect pool so that even if there are guys that look like they were going to be good that bust out, you still have so many different prospects that have different talents that it isn't really going to matter. And that, just the strength of your pool in general kind of rises to the top and makes your team better, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Sam Bennett. It took Sam Bennett to go to Florida to fully figure out his regular season potential instead of just being a playoff whiz. So.
Imagine he had to go to a good team to succeed.
Yeah.
That works. Just like Nicholas Aube-Kubel, who again.
Yeah, he's been doing good with Colorado.
Yeah, and if you look at that lineup, every player is overscoring their average.
Well, when you're on a good team, I mean, there's obviously going to be more scoring chances, more scoring opportunities, and then probably the mood around the team is better in general. So as a player, that affects things too, right?
Absolutely.
The confidence level, the confidence you have to make plays that you normally might not try because you're on a 6-game losing streak like the Flyers are. Things like that play into an effect, right? And just having a bad 100%. season too, when the expectations were already so high, that probably brings morale down even more. Because at the beginning of the season, I'm sure if you asked a ton of the guys on the team right now if they thought they'd be in this position, they would probably not agree with that, right? So that has to affect it. So I would say.
No, absolutely. And I just think we lack the patience, understandably so. I'm not telling people that they have to change their feelings towards the frustration. It is your job to demand more of this team. If we do not, they will not do it to themselves. So I am not telling people to stop giving the Flyers shit for being mediocre.
It doesn't mean the prospect pool is terrible. Like
exactly.
We've deemed it to be.
And it doesn't mean that your players are broken.
Yeah, just because you haven't picked the Batmans and you picked other good people, it doesn't mean you suck at drafting. It just means you're not Colorado, you're not Florida, you're not to the level of the Mount Rushmore teams that you would put on the Mount Rushmores of drafting lately, which that's fine because most teams, that's why it's considered a Mount Rushmore of drafting, aren't on that list. So that's just the way. Yeah, that's just the way it is. But I also think, like you said it too, Yariv, where it's hard with hockey because obviously, with soccer, we're so used to when people that pay attention to soccer, they're so used to paying attention to 850 different leagues because that's how soccer's at the Champions League, UEFA, et cetera, et cetera. But with hockey, when you really get into the nooks and crannies of it, that's really the same exact thing with hockey once you draft people, because if you really want to pay attention to them, then you got to start following the SHL. If you don't want to pay attention to them, you got to start following the Liga, the Czech Republic, the KHL, whatever. So the KHL, by the way, for people that don't know, is on ESPN+. There's different things that are pretty cool about the way guys are doing overseas. Like ever since we were able to pick up even a guy like, I think we might have let him go in terms of not signing him, but Igor Serduk's looked okay overseas. Desnoyers been great overseas. Obviously, in terms of Brian Zanetti, and same with Emil Andrea, both of them played in the World Juniors teams. You don't now. Sometimes that doesn't translate, but also you don't get invited to play for your World Juniors teams if you're not one of the most talented young kids from your country. So. And that's they're going to be back playing again if they play in August when they because they were in the World Juniors this year when they got canceled. So I think everyone's really progressing at a good rate. And similar to Hextall, how he kind of drafted sometimes better later at filling the Robin or the great fill into your lineup players. That's kind of what Flair's been doing of late. But I also like the guys he's picked at the top in the Forsters, York. You picked in 18, Farabee. O'Brien's taking longer to develop, and we'll see what happens between him and Noah Cates in the signing, like Russ talked about. But like you drafted good at the top. Tumala looks like he might be like a Cam Atkinson with his speed and shooting ability. So you have that. I think now if you can keep just developing these guys better, like we're doing now, and you can late bloomer some of the guys from Hextall's draft and then continue to pick like Flair's been picking. I don't think, like Russ said, Briere's going to have a huge impact this year because it would be naive to think he could come in at this late, like Russ was saying, and really know that much about the draft. Yeah, because he was scouting the ECHL running the Maine Mariners, so I don't think he's been also paying attention to every draft prospect in the NHL unless if he's
and all those leagues.
Sleep. Yeah, unless if he's like this Greek god that doesn't sleep. Like so, like. That's why I think we just have to be patient, where I'm not like that usually either. But the funny thing is, I don't know if it's because I got so used to just hearing we can't develop people and being like Yariv to say, well, it's not really that bad. The thing I'm the most patient with in life and more positive in life tends to be sports, where in other things I'll be like, oh, well, this is just crap. We can't.
Yeah.
So where with the sports, I'll be like, just give it some time. They'll get where Ratcliffe was all health. Now that he's been healthy, knock on wood, we're moving in the right direction. Same with Morgan. He missed a season. So
let's be honest.
Hopefully the same with Forster when he gets back as well.
Same with Kirill even. He had a hip surgery. That's why it just took him until a couple months ago to get back to being Easty of 1920. So
yeah, you're not wrong. And I don't want another Patrick Sharp situation here. You know what I mean? Like I don't
or Justin Williams.
Justin Williams, that trade bothered me immediately when it happened. I hated that trade when they traded him. I hated it.
Bad trade.
Dude. I have, if anything, if I want to rip on anything of the old Flyers regime, which I actually don't have a problem with at all, it was so fun to watch the team under them. Definitely. So I don't agree with anybody who says we got to get all of them out of here. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
If you're going to be really competitive, you're going to hurt your form.
Pretty much. It's just how it works.
It's how it works.
100%. Totally agree. But like that team, when they traded away young players for aging veterans, that's what bothered me. And I know that people still don't care about this, but when I saw the Nolan Patrick and Phil Myers trade for Ryan Ellis, and I really like Ryan Ellis, I'm like, that's why I said, I was like, this is not a trade I would make, because so many times in history, I have seen us lose patience with young guys, move them on for an older guy, and then get screwed over. And if you are old enough to remember the Alexei Zhidnik trade, where we got Braden Coburn for Alexei Zhidnik, I don't want to be the team that trades Braden Coburn for Alexei Zhidnik. Like, I don't want the aging vet. I want to hold on to my core, build from within, and get it right. And if I'm going to trade a young guy, if I'm moving Travis Konechny, I'm moving him for a young guy. And for, the Jason Martinez comment, I've said we didn't have the assets. Yeah, well, why didn't you move Travis Konechny and other assets to get Jack Eichel? Well, that's how you get Jack Eichel.
You could have done that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Why? We absolutely had the assets to go for Jack Eichel. We just didn't. We didn't go for him. We didn't push hard for him. We didn't think it was a good idea. He was a health risk, blah, 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 blah.
Doesn't seem like a health risk now.
Yeah. So. No, but also if you want another player that I brought up earlier, because the Flyers seem to struggle with going into the uppest tier of cap category when it comes to acquiring guys, because we saw them not love going out there to get Eichel, and there's been other guys and rumors that are going to get paid in the upper tier, like Goudreau in his next contract, where if you look at someone like Keller as you're trying to build the retool players to bring in, he's at 7.5, I want to say.
I would love to get him.
Maybe that's more in the realm.
You would rebound a lot.
Maybe
Keller,
that's more in the realm
for
of
TK.
Something like that, but like more in the realm of the Flyers, like where they want to be cap-wise with the guy that they consider part of the future core rather than being in the 8.5 to the 9.5 to the 10. Then maybe their strategies, they just don't want to do that, which is fine, but then you're restricting yourself in an own sense. So you have to go out and get the Kellers of the world that are the great 7-something, or you have to convince Philippe Forsberg that he should come here for $7.5 million and not $9 million. So then you have guys like that. And those are the things you can do, but the Forsberg thing's harder because you have to convince him to come here. Keller, you just have to trade for him, and then he's here for years.
And then, you also hope, too, that your draft pick is, elite, and you hit on him, and then that could be a big contract down the line. So you got lots of stuff to factor in, really.
Yeah. No, there's a lot. I like what you're saying, though, and a guy like Keller, that is a guy I would trade for.
I would as well.
What's the first thing you guys would draft? Player. I'm just curious.
What?
Go ahead, Vasili. I didn't mean to cut you off.
For this draft, you're saying?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the first thing you guys would draft positionally? If
center.
Play specifically, I don't think he's going to be available to us at 5. I would fucking love it, but Logan Cooley I think is exactly what this
center. Savoy as well. It's really good.
Yeah, a guy who's elite,
something like that. If you couldn't get a center, then go for top end defenseman, I would say.
Yeah, sure. I would say that, or best player available at that point.
How about you, Joe?
I'm actually on the same lines. I would say center is the biggest thing we need. Where if we trade Aristo or Drew, you're bound to get another first round pick. And I've heard you guys talk about it too. That's when I would get the defenseman.
Yeah.
And with that other first round pick, whether that's a Seamus Casey, whether that's somebody else that falls deeper, like a Medichuk or something, like get somebody that you think is going to be a good defenseman.
I would draft all USN TDP.
But go there. Pickering's also been good. Ty Nelson, Solomonson. So there's good defensemen in this draft, honestly.
Oh yeah,
as well as there is
draft.
So I think you can go there. For me,
got to get picks.
Mirachenko, who Lance really likes, is someone I really like. Cooley, if he's there, I think that's just a pipe dream for him to be there. So I kind of wiped him out.
We could win the lottery draft.
Yeah. Lecker I also think Jonathan Lecker who played for a Duzer Gardens. I always mispronounce their name, but he's really good. He's kind of rated. Yeah, he's kind of in that. I'm trying to think of. I'm blanking on the kid's name that plays for. this Cole Sillinger kind of category. He's not talked about as much, but he probably should be. So I feel like he's a good guy. But someone, if we don't draft the Mirchenko, a Geeky or something like that, I think, because especially with how well he played the Olympics. If Slavkovsky's there who can play all 3 forward positions,
that'd be great.
I think at this point,
there's also Lambert, right?
And Brad Lambert's also underrated.
Brad Lambert, yeah. And he's center.
Yeah, he's a guy that's got underrated now because he was last year at this time hyped, and then he kind of fell off a bit in his calendar season, and now nobody talks about him. When
he's still ranked like top 10,
could be a steal. Could be.
He could be this. He could end up being the steal.
He's in our range.
He falls. Yeah, he falls. And that goes to exactly what we talked about earlier. Sometimes I think draft rankings are too fluctual where you have to expect a guy that's only 18, 19, some 17, like Slavkovsky, to have bumps in the road because they're not even adults yet. So, it makes sense. So I think all those guys are self-confidence. And that's why I think for me, Shane Wright is still the one because Cooley's amazing offensively, isn't as good defensively. Shane Wright is very good offensively and kind of reminds me of Bergeron. So, like, if he's a guy that can win you selfies, then you're going to want that adds a different dimension.
I think what we're looking for is an Elias Pettersson type of player. Like, with having Sean Couturier here, with having Hayes here, with Scott Lawton here, with Lindblom here, like, I think we have enough two-way guys at this point, and two-way guys in the system, Lazinski, Jay O'Brien, like guys who can play that game, that I feel comfortable with that. But what we don't have is a replacement for Claude Giroux. Like, that's what we do not have right now. We hope that Frost can be that guy. He has not shown to be that guy. I think he still has upside. I definitely think he's still an NHL player and all that, but we don't have a guy to replace that. And that's why I look at a guy like Cooley and I'm like, that's exactly what we fucking need. Like a guy who doesn't have to be our best defender, but can be an elite, explosive, exciting, dynamic player.
Yeah, and then if you couple that, let's say, with a good center prospect you could get back from a Giroux trade, then you kind of have two guys that you add to your center depth there in a system where maybe you've been lacking that for the last couple of years, I guess. So
and then draft a couple defensemen either at the late first round or we get a second round pick, whatever we get for the aspects that we move. Like at this point, I'm like, load up that talent pool as much as you can, free up as much cap space. Yeah. Go out, get your free agents in the off season. And if you got to make a big trade, you might be able to make that too.
Because you'll have even more assets.
Yeah. And a guy like Giordano might be available for like a 1-year deal. If you do get rid of Rasmus Ristolainen, maybe you bring Giordano in for a year.
Or JVR if you trade JVR in the last year of his contract, because he has 7 point whatever.
Hopefully they trade
JVR. So that adds. But a guy from US, Yariv, since you were talking about US development, if we get extra first, like we get a first for Risto and say we get a first in the Giroux trade, that would then put us at 3. Somebody that I think at that point, if we go 2 forwards, 1 defenseman, depending what we decide to do then, or 2 defensemen, 1 forward. Rucker Mcgrody is a guy I've liked from the U.S. national team because he might not be the quickest skater yet, but he's got better at that incrementally each year. And he's one of those perfect goal scorers that did what we thought I think JVR was going to become fully when he got drafted, even what probably Toronto thought when they were trading him, which eventually then they just made him a power play wizard and just didn't hit him 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Brody seems like he has that extra gear of being able to shoot off of the wall and being able to have enough speed to kick it into gear to get shots off rather than just being the
net front guy.
Steroids version of like Mike Knuble, basically, which is essentially what JVR kind of became the on steroids version of Mike Knuble, who's more than a net front presence, but not that much more. Where Rucker Mcgrody seems like he's someone that has the ability to be that net front presence, but also be kind of what we're seeing Ratcliffe do right now.
Has the shot as well and the size.
It's a good shot, and he's going to be a pain in the ass and somebody that does all the good things you want to see within the game. But I did just look at the rankings. According to this, Lambert is still ranked in the top 5. So you're right, he's still ranked high. He's just not talked about.
Yeah, you don't hear his name really mentioned in like draft circles or things like that.
Right.
Even by McKenzie, like people like Bob McKenzie don't even mention him a lot. I really like, but I think he himself has got a little bit too mainstream the last couple years, but I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Well, then I look at I'm on Elite Prospects. Like if you look at their top 32, like they have Logan Cooley at 9.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's all opinions. This is all it's
all opinionated. Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is because this top of the draft is extremely interesting. They have Lambert at 13. They have Geeky at 14. You know what I mean? They have Samus Casey above them. They have Nazar above them. They have Nazar right under, or Nazar, sorry, under Cooley. Slavsky at 8. Yurov at 6. Savoy at 5. Nemec at 4, which honestly wouldn't be a bad take for us.
No.
But, it's just an exciting thing. If Fletcher plays this right, we can end up getting some good young talent from this pain and suffering we've experienced this year,
and then
get healthy and come in and be competitive again next year with young players, and hopefully they're fucking healthy. Like Forrester probably won't jump into the NHL because he's missing a lot of time. That's a guy who's potentially NHL ready next year.
Yeah, he has the opportunity for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have guys coming in. Jay O'Brien, Bobby Brink, a lot of these, like the Phantoms will be better. So we have to.
Even a Ronnie Adder have come into the Phantoms probably.
Yeah,
he's killing it. He's killing it.
Absolutely. There's potential here to improve. we don't have that, like you said, that ace in the hole prospect. We need to get one of them, but you don't need one of them to be a competitive team. And a lot of times you don't even know you have that
until somebody gets
until you have it. We didn't think, who thought Giroux was a late first round pick?
Nobody thought he was going to be an elite guy.
Nobody thought Giroux was going to be
Mike Richards
franchise great. So it happened. I do remember when I first sold Giroux, the one guy I do give credit to is my friend's brother, because we were watching a game at his house and it was literally Giroux's debut, and he looks at us and goes, "This kid is going to be something." And then, lo and behold, years later,
should have made him a scout.
Right. You never know. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. We're already at over an hour here. We're like an hour and a half.
That's okay. Fun prospect talk.
Yeah, no, this is a great episode, Joe. Really appreciate you coming on. You got anything that you're working on you want to tell the people about?
Well, for me, I've been doing different writing for the Royals and Phantoms. I'm going to get back into. I messed up my wrist actually playing hockey, so typing hasn't been the easiest compared to doing videos. But I've been doing that. I've been doing different hockey stuff on my Sports Fanatic News YouTube page and with Steel Flyers for a show we do over there. To check that out. But it's been a pleasure to be on talking about the organization and overall hockey news. I really appreciate you guys having me on. And then the easiest way to contact me is JJ Borek26 on Twitter. So.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Some great, discourse, lots of great conversations. Love the prospect talk. So anytime, definitely got to come back, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll definitely have you back on. This is great. I'm glad you reached out actually, because I didn't have anybody for this week, and I was like, "Oh, perfect, Joe, hit me up." So, Vasili, you got anything you're working on? You want to tell people about?
Yeah, I'll have an article probably the next couple of days on Flyers nitty gritty, and then me and Joe actually should have another podcast episode out over on his channel as well on the next few days. So lots of Flyers content, lots of hockey content in general for all you guys to check out.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, make sure to check that episode out as well. Steel Flyers Network, right?
Steel Flyers, All Sports Network, and then Sports Fanatic News is where I'll be doing the episode with Vasili, the grittiest take. Yeah,
beautiful. Awesome. So yeah, make sure to follow both of them. I'm sure that both of them will share it out for your viewing pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully we didn't piss people off. Hopefully we made you feel a little bit better about the situation going on in Philly.
That was our hope anyway.
It's a tough year. Like, I get it. If people don't agree with me, it's totally fine. Maybe we'll look stupid in the end. But the one thing I did notice about my views is that I tend to be more patient than people, and they don't like that. But I always say, play the long game. Always play the long game.
That's what Chris said. If you say anything positive about the team right now, it seems like people are just going. I can't remember his exact tweet, but he said something.
I know. I saw that as well. I just think people are mad, and it is what it is. The team's bad. So what are you going to do? But I mean, we're here to give our opinions. Everybody has their opinions. I mean, if you disagree, doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about hockey wise or anything. Everybody is entitled to their opinion at the end of the day. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share this out. Shout out again to Jim Steaks, our sponsor. Please go get a cheesesteak. Thank you so much for listening. Our last episode with Sean Sampson, Ethan Sampson's dad, was like one of the best episodes we've done so far. So really appreciate the support on that one. And keep coming. Hopefully we can keep upping the content, and we'll get through this. And then we have, actually, I'll make this announcement right now. We have episode 100, which is crazy to think about, coming. Wow. That episode will be March 11th. It'll be myself, Vasili, Jamie, and Chris. And it's pretty much going to be all trade deadline shit.
It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's going to be talking about getting the trash out of here. No, I'm just kidding. After everything I said, talk about like trash. All right. Thank you, everybody. We love you. And remember, always stay gritty.